Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On today's show, we're going to talk about the new way that technology and investing is impacting real estate. Julio, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you so much, Josh. Really appreciate to be here and thank you everybody to the Deal Scout.
Yeah, man. All right. So, what part of the world are you located?
Oh, we're in Miami, Florida. Beautiful Miami, Florida, man. Love it. It's just great
Yeah.
weather outside. Today was, 80 degrees. Perfect.
Yeah. The great country of Florida is rocking and rolling. Everywhere else is a little crazy, but the state of Florida is really doing well. I'm really impressed with how things are in real estate and in business. So, Julio, tell us, who are you?
My name is Julio Ceras. I am the CEO and founder of Brix, Fractional Real Estate Technologies Corporation. I founded this company through pure math. I'm a mathematician. That's my background. So this is the way to get the power of real estate investing in everybody's hand. It doesn't matter if you're a multimillionaire, and it doesn't matter if you're like a guy that works, making $10 an hour. It doesn't matter. You can invest into real estate through us.
Cool, cool. All right.
Yeah.
So as we go through this journey and hear your journey, we're going to talk about like the fundamentals and the blocks that are needed to make this happen and why hasn't it happened already. So let's start with this. As a mathematician, you looked at a bunch of different things, and one day you said, "I'm going to create this fractional real estate company." Talk to us about the moment where you had that aha that you decided to go for this.
Well, the reason for it is because I was in banking. So I'll tell you a little bit more about my background. I apologize. I'm just changing locations. I noticed my Wi-Fi. So, okay, so I'll go back into my office. So the reason we created this is because of my background, right? So I'm a second, generation immigrant from Colombia and Spain. And when I came to this country, I was with a single mother, and I realized early on when I was a little boy how hard it was for my mother to own real estate. And I always thought about real estate as in, you buy a house, you live in it, and you pay it off in 30 years, and that's it, and everything's good. And then you own your home forever. And after that, you don't have to worry about a mortgage, and it kind of helps you through retirement. So when you're little, you start thinking about these things as you're growing up. And, with my mother, it was very hard because of the money that she made, and it was just by myself, only child. It was very hard for her. So we rented for like 12 years when she got to this country until she was able to save enough money to buy her first home. Right. So that was very impactful for me.
Sure.
At the same time, I was always a mathematician. Like I did really well in school. I was doing advanced calculus, advanced trigonometry when I was just in high school. I was doing college math when I was in high school. So we didn't have enough money. So I joined the Marine Corps. I did 4 years in the Marines. So for everybody out there that's military, Semper Fi, love my military, love all my military personnel. So I did 4 years in the military, and then I got out, and then I worked for Homeland Security. I went 4 years to TSA, then another 14 years into Customs and Border Protection. I was an officer, and I did various things through Homeland Security. The last 2 years of Homeland Security, I got into their technical departments. I got into certain departments that had to do with, creating apps for the government, for the people. I was a co-founder and co-creator of an app called Roam, ROAM, and it's a reporting offsite mobile application. That's what it is. And what it is all the boaters that come back into the country, they don't have to go to a customs office. They could just do it through their phone and through their app. During that, I saw the power of technology, of the internet, of how we can make life easier for people, how we could be very cost efficient. And I got into efficiencies, if you will, efficiency ratings, efficiency rates, because of that. So I retired from Homeland Security, got out, and then I started working for different banks. And, just like everybody started from the bottom of the banks, but not as a bank teller, but more as a, mortgage department, loan up originate, things like that. Quickly, I got into the back end of the department because they realized, okay, we have a guy that's a mathematician here. Why are we gonna? So I went through the whole process. But during that, I learned really quickly how compound interest really affects people when they're getting mortgages, when they're in these 30-year notes, how they're paying off their principal and interest. Really understood why it's so difficult to first get into real estate because the bank has a lot of requirements. If you're going to buy your first time property, you could use a VA program for military, or you could use FHA or other programs, and you're 3.5% down. They look on your credit, and these programs are by the government to help people because it was really hard to get in. But if it's not a first time home buyer and you're trying to get into real estate investing,
Hmm.
now it gets real tough, you know, 20, 25, 30% down. They try to see what the rent rolls are going to be. They scrutinize your credit score a lot more.
For sure.
There's no program backing you up. So they really go into personal guarantees and into your income, to your FICO scores, it's very, very difficult when you're first starting. And then on top of all that you're dealing with a bank. If you don't have the money, you got to find a really reliable and trusted realtor or a broker. And then on top of that, you got to find a really good property. Not only is the location, people always spit out location, location, location. That's great. That's great for growth of the asset, of the appreciation of the real estate. But it's more about, can you be a landlord? Can you manage a rental? Are you handyman-ish? Can you deal with maintenance problems? Can you deal with a renter being late or not paying? Especially like what happened with the pandemic, maybe 2 or 3 months. Can you take on that burden of that mortgage with your current income? So all these things are very, very difficult. People see on TikTok and Instagram all these stories of like, I started with one property, now I have 100 properties, and I'm a multimillionaire. And the truth is, there's very, very, very little people like that. The majority of people, over 80%, 85% of the people that start in real estate, it turns into a hobby. They just buy one, two, maybe a few properties, up to 4 properties. That's it.
Hmm.
They let the rents pay the mortgage. They hope to pay it off in 25, 30 years, and they have 4 properties and they have a nice little retirement asset, but they don't get into professional real estate investing. They really don't. I know I'm going off here on a lot here, Josh, with your question. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Well, as we're talking, what I like to do is, I have a computer in front of me and I start searching things where my brain goes. As a podcast host, I think my job is to ask the questions that the community has. And
Perfect.
then, as we're going through this, I must start with this.
Yeah.
I'm sitting down, but I stand and salute you. Thank you for your service, and fellow veterans, military, police, frontline workers. Thank you all for serving. That should just be a period, nothing else. Thank you. All right. Love you guys, and I appreciate you. When we get into the story of your mother, I think myself growing up, I spent a lot of my life trying to fix mommy and daddy issues, right? Like, I saw my dad in construction swinging hammers, and if he wasn't swinging hammers because he got hurt or he went on a trip, we stopped having income. Or if the economy shifted, we stopped. So my thinking, I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and such like that. But it seems as though you saw your mom working her ass off,
Right.
single mom,
Right.
and the hopes of home ownership were so far, or investing in real estate were so far
Unattainable.
off,
Unattainable.
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 So when that happens, I think for me and my perspective, and I'd love to hear yours, is you start to lose hope and you're going, well, what's the use, but it's just like, man, I've got such a far chasm to jump before I could start becoming a real estate investor. And I don't know a damn thing about being a landlord or fixing toilets or this or that. So it's just like, I think that gap causes a lot of people to not even pursue it. You're saying through the work that you did, you found a way, or you're building a way
Correct.
that could help cross that chasm. Explain what fractional ownership looks like for Bob the plumber.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
working, I have a family, I've got kids, I walk them to school, I don't have time to fix other people's toilets, that my own, right?
Right.
So explain what that looks like.
Perfect. That's a great question. Let's go back on the history of what fractional real estate really is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So back in the days, back in the 60s and the 70s, it started with timeshares. And that was supposed to be fractional real estate, but it wasn't. Right. And surprisingly enough, timeshares started in Florida, was one of the major ones, especially Orlando with all the parks and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to solve that problem, right? It was supposed to say, okay, hey, listen, you might not have enough money to own a vacation home when you go to Orlando, but you might have some money that you could get 2 weeks a month, and you pay a small down payment. And then after that, you pay, monthly payments and this and that, whatever. It didn't solve the problem, actually made it worse. Right now, there's a whole industry of lawyers getting people out of their timeshares, and it's so lucrative. It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, they started like the REITs, and they started trust and LLPs and GPs. It's great. It did wonderful. The only problem was Bob the plumber can't get in, right? Because you had to have accreditation status, or you had to have at least $25,000 minimum just to touch the door to get in. So it knocked out 98% of the population, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then back in the early 2000s, some companies started coming around. Like I'll tell you right, it was Fundrise, like
Mm-hmm.
Realty Mogul, Yield Street, Crowd Street, and there's some other ones that are really good out there. But what they did was they did e-REITs, right? So it's electronic REITs, and if you know, and anybody doesn't know what a REIT is, it's a real estate investment trust,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what a REIT is. So when you say trust, people don't understand, but there's trust rules, SOPs, and policies to those trusts. And they fall under the SEC, right? They fall under Rule 144 and other rules of the SEC. So basically, there's an accreditation KYC that you have to be, know your customer, right? You have to be a part of that KYC. The ones that are non-accredited, there's a lot of stipulations on those trusts for those people. So when they get involved, they might get involved for $500, maybe $1,000, like Bob the plumber, but his money's tied up, right? His money could be tied up anywhere from like 3 years on the low end all the way up to 7 years on the high end. And the profits are tied up. And when you take them out, there's certain fees that have to be involved with trust rules, right? There's certain fees that have to be involved. And when your capital is finally released, it's because a few things happened. Either the trust sold the asset after 7 years, it appreciated so much, and then it spreads it out pro rata to all its investors, which is a good thing. But your money just got tied up for 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? So those companies had great ideas, and it moved the industry forward, right? I call those companies the MySpaces. MySpace, what they did, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they moved it forward. Then about 3 or 4 years ago, with the rise of blockchain and crypto and NFTs, a few companies started doing this. Big problem was a lot of them are not under the SEC, which is Securities Exchange Commission, right? So that's a huge problem, because not being under the SEC, these are securities at the end of the day. I mean, you're taking somebody's money, right? And you're putting it in an asset that you control and manage. You have to be licensed for that. You have to have certain licenses. You have to have certain audits and certain trails to show everything you're doing. You can't just take somebody's money and do whatever you want, right? So the SEC is very stringent on that. And then there's FINRA and the SIPC, and then there's other government agencies as well. Being from a Homeland Security, I understand this very well, how it works. So those companies did very well, but what they'll do is they'll turn your money into a crypto, whichever they design. It could be Ethereum, it could be Bitcoin, whatever crypto they designated, and then they will do it that way, trying to circumvent the system, if you will. And there's companies that are still operating like that, and then there's companies that have folded, that have been rug pulled. I mean, it's a disaster. To your main question, what is fractional real estate?
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. The answer is, it's a piece of property, no matter what the value is, if it's 100,000, 500,000, or $1 million. That property is fractionalized in either shares, right, or tokens. There's different sayings right now in the industry, right? So
Sure.
shares, or tokens, or portions, and people buy a portion or a share or a token into that, and that way they own a piece of that property. Now, they can't do it through a deed, because you can't have like 1,000 owners of a deed, right? But they could buy it through an entity, which is, an LLC. Some are under C corps or other corporations, but it's mostly an LLC, and it's a single asset LLC. So that's the main answer to your question of fractionalized. And you enjoy the benefits. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
you enjoy the benefits of owning that $1 million property. If it's an Airbnb, if it's a short-term or long-term rental, if it's a vacation home, you enjoy the benefits, whether they're positive or negative, right? Because some properties lose money as well if people don't know what they're doing, and other properties make money if people know what they're doing correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answered that question, Josh.
Yeah, yeah. So I got some questions. So it's just like, hey, we're you live. Let's just say you live in Ocala with near me, and we find a house. Let's just say it's $100,000, and you're like, hey, I'll put in 50 grand, and I'll put in 50 grand. We could
Correct.
buy it together, create an LLC, a multi-member LLC,
Correct.
right? And we buy this house together, and we're like, okay, we're gonna put in another 50 grand, and then we could sell it for 200, and then we split profits, or we're gonna rent it
That
and
is
we're gonna get money
one
back.
That's 100% correct, but that's not fractionalizing. So what you just described could be an LLP, a limited partnership,
Yep.
or a general partnership, right? Because one of the two is, if it's 50-50, one has to take control and command, right?
Yeah.
Or a general partnership or something like that. And that's awesome. I mean, I've done many deals like that. I've done millions of dollars worth of deals like that, and they're amazing. But that's not really fractionalizing, right? So what fractionalizing is, more in depth, is that same property you just talked about, that 100,000. If it could be two members, or it could be 10 members at 10,000 each. There's one member that has to be the one that's doing it, right? There's one member that has to be the professional, the one that's a real estate professional, that's done it before, that knows what he's doing. Because, Josh, the podcast guy, maybe doesn't know real estate, right? Maybe doesn't
Yeah.
know the taxes. Instead of paying it in November and get 4% discount, he might not know that if you pay it quarterly during the year, there's a 6% discount, right? So we'll let a professional do it that knows how to maximize efficiencies in that asset. People get confused with real estate. They think, oh, real estate is just a house. What they don't understand is that, no, it's not just a house, it's a business, right? It's an
Hmm.
actual business. There's income coming into that business, there's expenses coming out of that business, and then there's profit at the end of the month. And that profit has to be distributed correctly.
Yeah.
That's what people get very confused with real estate. That's why there's over, I don't know how many million, I think it's like 10 to 12 million Americans right now that own 1 to 4 properties. 1 to 4 properties right now, but they're not a business. It's a hobby. I love them, but they all have mortgages.
Yeah.
They all are dealing with the renters. They're all dealing with a lot of things that are very difficult, but they don't treat it as what it should be treated as a business.
Got it. All right. So in that scenario, what is the difference between, all right, you and me, we go buy this house together, and then the way you're going to do it in the future? Because I think that's how most, hobbyist real estate investors, like,
Correct.
hey, let's go in this together. I'll stand up a company. Well, the address is 111 Main Street LLC, or whatever the case may be. So what's the
Correct.
difference in the way that is versus the way you're going to do it?
Okay. So some of the major differences is, if it's just me and you doing it,
Yeah.
we're just two guys, we're starting an LLC and we're doing it. The way I'm doing it is, we have a corporation, right? So first of all, when a corporation comes in and wants to buy properties, then it's a different receiving end for a seller. They understand, okay, it's just Josh and Julio buying a property or whatever, but here's comes Brix Corporation buying this property. So that changes the game and the topics and the legalities.
Okay.
Second of all is, we're professionals. In my team, we have over 60 years of experience of real estate, through property management, through finances, through real estate acquisitions, through real estate construction, development. I mean, we have 16 years. So we are really, really professionals. We've done it multiple times, right?
Yeah.
So we've bought a lot of properties. We currently have on the waiting list about 150 something properties ready to come on board to our marketplace, right? So that's going to be huge for us. It's about 60 to 62 million dollars worth of deal flow ready to come in, to be fractionalized, to be sell out to the public, right? And on top of that, we have the experience. If something happens to that property, we have handyman, we have electricians, we have plumbers, we have everybody on board through a corporate level. So we maximize the efficiency of, when we send that Bob the plumber out there to fix that toilet, it costs us $150. That's a credit. Correct. When Julio or Josh go on the weekend to fix that toilet, there is no credit. We're just landlords. We're fixing our own toilet, right? So we have efficiencies. So by fractionalizing it, the people that buy the fractional shares are getting the best of all worlds, and they're true investors, hands off. They don't have to worry about the property. They don't have to worry about the asset, if you will. They don't have to worry about any electrical problems or plumbing problems or the rental or insurances. As a company, as a corporation, when we go to get insurance for this property, we get corporate rates, which is a lot lower than Julio and Josh if you try to, as an
Yeah.
LLC, try to get insurance. When there's claims, we have public adjusters that are under our umbrella, that are professionals that have dealt with the insurance companies, that they know, oh, wow, Josh and Julio got a public adjuster. They're not going to pay attention too much. They're going to try to negotiate, give you the lowest. With us, wow, here comes the public adjuster from Brix Corporation. It changes the game. So
Yeah.
it's amazing to be in the fractionalized industry. Another difference is, all our properties are non-leverage. None of them are mortgage. There's no notes, there's no mortgages, no banks. Every single property we own 100% outright. So if the market goes down, if the interest rates go up, if certain things happen, it doesn't affect us at all. It actually helps us as the interest rates have been going up lately more and more and more. And the Fed's about to have another announcement here on April 15th. Then it helps us because we go in there with a little bit more aggression to buy these properties because now you could afford less because of the interest rates going up. So it gives us a better position to buy properties. I hope that answers you. I get into real depth with the fractional industry.
Yeah, so the benefit is economies of scale and the amount that I have to invest. Like if in that scenario, the first scenario, I'm putting 50 grand down and
Correct.
another 25 grand. So I got $75,000 into a project.
Correct.
Hopefully it does well. And let's just say
And
we
you got
rent
to
it.
wait till when you're liquid. You have to fix it, like you said, rent it, wait a year, 2 years, and then sell it. So you just put all your money, your 75 grand, into hold for 2 years, hoping that the economy doesn't go down, that the appraisal doesn't go down, that the real estate is still in good condition, a hurricane doesn't come in Florida,
Yeah,
destroys your roof, right? So a lot of things, and it's very difficult to do that.
sure.
And you have to be willing to part with your money for 2 years.
Yeah. So with that scenario, yeah, we could rent it out and we're making, a little bit of cash flow. We do the Burr method and,
Right.
we take a mortgage out. So now we're cash flowing, we're making some money. Hopefully the roof is good. Hopefully we get appreciation in the value of the marketplace, right? But I
Right.
just tied up 75 grand. Unless I do
Exactly.
the Burr method, right? So,
Well, the burn method is like a complete myth, by the way. So, and I'll
ooh,
explain that. So I
yeah.
hope this doesn't offend some of the people listening.
Well, I'm okay offending some people, so we'll go there.
Okay.
We'll go there in a minute about the bird myth. Before we go bird myth, because I have a lot of people that this would be a good dialogue to have. Let's
Okay.
talk about the risk. All right, so maybe instead of me putting 75 grand and doing this and trying to go to the bird myth, like you said, and
Mhm.
I'd love to hear what that looks like. Let's just
Okay.
say we go the other direction and we deploy 50 to 75 grand across
Multiple
multiple
properties. So
properties.
that's the first one, right? So the
Yeah,
first one just hit it nail head, right? So it's
yeah,
diversity, right? You don't
yep,
want to put all your eggs in one basket. I know it's an old saying from our grandmothers, but it's the truest thing in the world. You don't
yeah.
want to put all your eggs in one basket. The second thing
So, but
is,
well, before you go there, what I want to know the risk, right? So let's just
right,
say I'm a fractional owner in 111 Main Street. Let's just say a it's $100,000 property. Let's just say I put $1,000 into that. So I'm a
perfect,
1% owner essentially.
correct, correct.
Let's just say the roof blows off, and we need to do. Is that something that the company comes back to me and says, "Hey, the roof blew off. Everybody has to throw in another 3 grand or two
No,
grand to."
no.
Okay,
So
explain
here's
what
the
that
thing.
looks like.
Right. So on the opposite end of that question is if you were the 75,000, I was 75,000, the blue rolls off, guess what? Now we gotta put 30 grand. You have to come out of pocket 15 and 15,
Hmm.
right? Me and myself. Right. With the other scenario where you just own $1,000 and now the blue rolls off, well, we have insurances from corporate companies at a corporate rates that will cover that. And our deductibles are usually anywhere from as low as like $500 to about 25, maybe $3,000.
Yeah.
We have cash reserves when we fractionalize these properties through the fractionalization formula, right? So we have a lot of protections in that if it was just me and Josh, we're not coming out of 15 grand out of our pocket and we got to deal with the insurance company. No, now the company's doing everything for you. So your risk is highly mitigated, right? And we don't see a scenario where we have to either come to our investors and do what's called a call and say, hey, we need you to throw us another $500 now because of our roof, because we have not only an insurance on that property, but we have insurances on all our properties and an umbrella insurance, and we have company insurance as well, right? So if the company needs to do something with these assets because of major disaster or hurricane, something happens, we have insurances for that, and we also have cash reserves in the corporation that we could point out to every single property that needs it. As the rents are coming in, it just returns the money slowly but surely. So instead of saying, Josh, $7,500, you were making maybe 7% net. Well, this happened, disaster. Now you're making maybe 6% net. You lost 1%, but you didn't come out of pocket. So it's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Now you said two scenarios. One is I take, 50 grand and I spread it across 50 properties at 1,000, a pop. And then you're going to explain kind of maybe a scenario two. But I thought as people were listening in, they go, well, what kind of risk is I could lose my money, right? But risk
Right.
is, well, I have to throw a ton of extra money if something goes wrong with the property or if it's
Right.
not going to rent it or whatever. So walk us through the rest of
Okay,
your
so
conversation.
the second risk is what happens right now is that the rentals in the United States,
Mhm.
through all United States, in the last 38 years have gone up or have stayed the same but slightly increased. There's no case right now that we know of that the rentals have actually gone down, except for devastated areas like in New Orleans and things that happened after
Sure.
Hurricane Katrina, things like that. But other than that, the rentals have gone up. So that's the first incredible factor. The second factor is real estate as a long-term hold always goes up. Always. There's never been a case like 2009 where real estate went down, but real estate recovered like 7 or 8 years later. And now it's even higher than it was back in 2009 levels, right? Because of inflation and appreciation and other factors in the economy. So the worst case scenario is we have to sell the property and we have to return the money that was invested with profits, maybe a little loss to the investor. But I think about dividend stocks as we're saying this, right? You invest in a company that has a dividend stock. Yeah, they're producing dividends, but the company has to rise. You know, do you know their board of directors, their board members? Do you know what the company's doing? Do you know what's going on? No. With real estate, it's a lot easier. You know this asset. We're very transparent. We show the locations of the assets. We show how much the renter's paying. What are the expenses? So it's a business, and we see it, and it's always growing. We know that it's the safest wealth building tool there is in the planet is real estate.
Yeah.
So the risk is very mitigated, very mitigated. And as a
Okay.
company, we don't want to, we cherry pick our properties. We make sure that when we purchase a property, we get involved with a property or somebody fractionalizes their property with us and we accept it. We run the numbers, we cherry pick, we do our due diligence, we get third party appraisers. We make sure to do the best, not only for our investors and our company, but we want to do the best for that fractionalized shareholder Josh that put in $1,000 because we want him to reinvest his dividends, or we want him to, hey, I got a Christmas bonus, I got my taxes, let me invest another $1,000, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And money is made in real estate really when you buy. So buying right is
Correct.
really the strong point of it. Location, 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 but buy freaking awesome, right? So how do you
Correct.
guys make sure that you're buying things correctly? And then let's talk about the Burr method.
Okay. So what we do is we have an algorithm, a formula that we have in our company that, I co-created with some experts, but I'm really the founder of it. But it's a formula that what we go is we go through like about, I don't know, like it's 50 something. I don't want to say an exact number, 52, 58 different websites like realtor.com, like Zillow, like
Sure.
Redfin, homes.com. And then we also use the MLS as well.
Yeah.
And then we also use broker websites and we use a lot. So and what it does is we do all these analysis on properties and we look for great rentals, right? We look for properties that are in great rental areas
Yeah.
and that are producing decent rents, fair market value rents, and that we could say, hey, we could pick up this home. Then we go in cash, right? We get real aggressive, right? We find out we don't toy around with the sellers. If we notice that they just want to sell at the max, 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 and they won't take any other offer and this and that, whatever, we just move on,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. We just move on. We probably close on 2 to 3 out of 20 deals that we put together because we get aggressive and we tell them, okay, this property is worth $250,000.
Yeah.
Now, let's go in there, let's do an appraisal. Okay, let's go in there, let's do a due diligence. Let's make sure that we do a proper inspection of the property. People
Mhm.
don't do that. We do min mitigation, we do hurricane, we do water, we do plumbing inspections. I mean, we really, really attack the inspections. And there's always problems, especially if the property's been rented for a long time. Some renters don't take care of their properties,
Sure.
right? So we do that. And then we go in and we say, okay, according to our inspection, you need about $20,000 worth of work. According to this is happening. According to your rent that you currently have, so we're going to offer you maybe, $215,000 cash. Will close in 21 days if you accept our offer. There might be room for a little negotiation, but there's not much. When we give them an offer, it's very solid. Sometimes they say 218 and you have a deal. We'll look at our numbers. We'll say, okay, well, we'll work something out. But that's how we buy it. We always buy it. Then we go in there and we fix them. We do it rapid. We do it fast. We don't get into permitted work or inspection, licensed work. We try to avoid all that because that's time consuming. You
Time.
have to get a general contractor. You don't want to get involved in that. If it's quick fixes, if maybe you need to get a license for electrical or something like that, that's fine. But something that is fast, quick, done right, not lipstick, but done good. Then we rent it properly. If the renter's been in there 7 years, he's paying a low rent. I already know it. We don't even have to talk about what he's paying because I already know he's been there for so long. He's paying a low rent, right? So we rent it properly. We say to the renter, hey, your contract's up on this month. This is what the new rent is according to fair market value. We'll give you a little discount, $50, $100 off because you've been here for so long. But if not, it's time for you to move out. This and that. And it always works. They usually come up. There's a little negotiation there, right?
Yeah.
And then we go appraise the property. Here's one of the secrets. I'm gonna tell this live right now in podcast. People are gonna be like, "Oh my God, write that down." When we go appraise a property, we use a third-party appraiser. It could be Berkshire Hathaway, it could be Remax, it could be one of the big Coldwell Banker, it could be one of the companies. But we make sure to show the photos of before and after because that has value. We also make sure to show the inspection of before and the inspection like after, like how we fixed everything and we have certified fixed everything. We also make sure to show the new rental roll, right? The new roll of, okay, this guy was paying $1,400 a month for so many years, but now he's paying, 2,000 because that's what it's supposed to be. And all the places around here around 2,000 to 2,100, right? When we show all that, the appraiser always, I haven't had a moment it's not come back higher, always comes back a lot higher. And then they say, okay, this house that's worth 250 is now worth 270. We picked it up for 215.
Yeah.
Right. Then we fractionalize it properly and we sell the shares out. And everybody's super happy because now they're making, a nice home, nice rental, was bought correctly, was inspected, was properly done, fair market value rent, is paying the proper taxes now. The insurance has gone down because we have corporate rates, so we're taking it and maximizing the efficiencies of it and eliminated all the inefficiencies of that property. And we flipped it around, and that's what we do. And we do that professionally. I've done that myself many, many times. Right now in our corporate assets under management, we have 5 because we just started a year ago. Started with $113,000. Now we have $900,000 under management, and we're growing. And we have people that say, hey, I have a property. I have these problems. I want to fractionalize it because I want to get rid of my mortgage. Come to us. We will get rid of your mortgage. We'll get rid of it fast. And not only will we get rid of your mortgage, but we'll also help you with the efficiencies of your property and we'll help you make more money. We'll get more cash flow into your hands. And at the same time, you have now tappable equity. You could actually sell pieces of your property now and still be the owner of it as long as you maintain 10%.
Huh.
And then we go into the Burr method.
Yeah. All right. Go into the Burr method. Why is that you called it a myth? Explain that.
Okay, so the Burr method is a decent method, right? What it is you buy, you renovate, remodel, then you rent out, and then you refinance, right? And it's a decent method. It's better than not doing anything. Okay, so let's get that disclaimer out of the way. It's better than not doing anything. If you're going to start, do something, right? Especially if you're going to take it professionally and you're going to get serious with it and you want to be involved in real estate.
Sure.
The problem is that last part, refinance, right? When you refinance, all you're doing is paying off the original loans or hard money or soft money that was lent to you, or not, but you're paying it off with a refinance. So you just got yourself in a little deeper hole, and you're hoping that since you rented it correctly, that's covering that new refinance mortgage and interest and all those things. And when you refinance, it ends right there and your cash flow is very little. So now you got to do it all over again. So you get into the spinning wheel, right? And the faster you go, the more refinance. And all you're doing is just borrowing money from a bank or a financial institution to build your assets, right? And you're hoping that if you do this correctly within 7 to 12 to 15 years, you have 100 properties, right? If that's the main goal, or 50 properties, whatever your goal is. And you refinanced all of them, but because one refinance, they give you enough money just for the second one, to give you enough money just for the third one. And you're hoping that the larger you get, then you could refinance less. And every time you do it, then you could become a cash buyer, right? And then
Sure.
you could stop refinancing so much. And then at that point, when you're making so much money from all these rentals, you could pay off these mortgages a little bit faster. But that turns into a very long-term plan, very long-term. You get involved with that. I know some people that have been doing the Burr method. They're very professional. I mean, these guys have general contractors.
Hmm.
They know a lot about finances. They have their accounts on staff, and they're able to build. They do pretty well in life, but they've been doing this for like 10, 15, 20 years long term. It's incredible to me how long it takes them to do this method. That's why I call it the myth, right? Because yes, it's better not doing nothing, or not doing anything, to be more
Yeah.
proper. But at the same time, you just got yourself a career. You just made yourself, it's a business, but you just put yourself in a 15-year path, and it's great. Instead of working a job for 15 or 20 years, making, $80,000 a year for 30 years and getting a small retirement, you should do this, obviously. But yeah, I think that what I invented is called the birth method.
The birth, explain. So how do you spell it?
So it's the same thing, BRRRR, and then at the end, instead of the last R, it's an F,
Okay.
right? So we
Yep.
do the same thing. We buy with no mortgages, no leverages, no debts, no notes, right?
Uh-huh.
We then remodel or renovate, accordingly, depending on our inspections and our appraisals and everything like that.
Sure.
We also rent it out correctly, right? We also do that. But then the last R, instead of refinancing, we fractionalize, right? So we fractionalize that property into our marketplace, right? Into the Brix marketplace, and we sell the shares out into the public. And when they buy the shares, the money comes right back. So now we have no more loans or debts, or we're not in that spinning wheel anymore. The money that comes back, we use that money and do it again.
Yeah.
It's a loop, basically. So we
Yeah.
went from the Burr loop that constantly digs you into the birth loop, which frees you,
Hmm.
right? So it's
Interesting.
amazing.
What I would love is I would love to put you side by side with someone who kind of lives by the Burr method, and I'd love
Oh,
to hear the dialogue. So that might be something that we do. We do a bunch of investor panels, real estate communities kind of stuff. So when that time comes, man, I'd love to invite you
of
to
course,
to
yeah.
bring your thoughts to it because I would love to learn from that conversation. But what?
They might convert. They might convert. I have a guy that's doing the burn method pretty well.
Yeah,
He has about 40 something properties right now. He's been doing this for like 7 to 9 years.
yeah,
And now he's telling me, he's like, holy macaroni. I wish I would
yeah,
have known about your system, because now instead of refinancing, I could just fractionalize, and then I
yeah,
could put those shares in your marketplace and then return my money, and then not dealing with a bank anymore, or a credit score, or a FICO score, or personal guarantees. And
yeah.
then when I get my money back, I could just do it again and again and again. So he's actually converting into the into our method.
Interesting. Yeah. All right.
It's
So
awesome.
I buy, $100,000 house. I buy one share or one, piece of it at $1,000. And then you said that because of this method, it is a liquid asset. So I could sell it back
Yeah.
into the
So
marketplace.
So here's the best part. Here's like the gravy on top for our company, right?
Yeah.
So companies in our industry, they have designations, right? And
Yeah.
some companies are designated as technology companies, other companies are designated as real estate companies. Some they have sub designations as prop tech, fintech.
Hmm.
We have all those designations. So that's the first thing. We have all of them. But the second one that we have is marketplace. We actually have a marketplace, which means when you buy that share, when the property goes live, it only has to be on hold, a holding pattern for 90 days. After the 91st day, you can sell. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I don't know why that went off. Sorry. So, anyways, what happens is that you could sell your share into other people that are in the property, or into the entire marketplace, or publicly. You could just send them a link like you do a Zelle or a Cash App, and you could say, hey, I have a piece of this property. It's making me 6% a year. I'm getting $5 a month for $1,000. I want to sell it. Are you interested? You know how many people are going to say, of course I'm interested. $1,000 getting $5 a month, and it's backed by a real estate asset. That's how we're going to grow. That's how we've been growing, by word
Got
of
it.
mouth mostly. We've done very little marketing. We grew from a few hundred investors. Now we have up to 6,000 investors, and we've only been in business a year. And our
Got it.
numbers are going through the roof right now. It's incredible. Every day we're having people sign up, sign up, sign up. So it's really great.
So at any point, are you guys planning on, so let's just say a market does really, really well and the property, appreciates 50% or whatever, like something crazy. Do you guys
Oh
have
yeah,
it in your plan to sell?
we could,
Yeah.
right? That's the whole point. What we could do at that point is we want to do the best for our investors, right? So what we'll do is we'll take analytics of, okay, this property went up 50%. Is it advantageous to our investors? Because remember, we have skin in the game as well. We have a piece of the properties that come into our platform as well. Not the fractionalized ones, but the ones that we buy, we fractionalize it 90%, we keep 10%, right?
Yeah.
With the fractionalized, the owners keep 10%, they fractionalize and they sell 90%, but we advise them, right? We're their advisory, market. We're their advisory company to tell them, listen, the property goes up 50%, you bought it for 300,000, now it's worth 450. That's something that could be very advantageous to sell, but you got to remember there's closing costs, there's commissions, there's capital gains. So we
Mhm.
take all of that into account and say that person that bought it for $1,000, he's supposed to be receiving $1,500 now, right?
Mhm.
Because it's 50%, $500. But when you take out all those costs, now it went down to
Sure.
$1,400 now. So okay, he's receiving 400. That's 40%. He should be very happy. Should we do that? Then we'll maybe take a little poll within the property, and see what the consensus is or what people want to say, or we just reappraise that property at 450, we don't sell, right? And now that share that he bought at 1,000 is worth 1,500. Now he could sell his share without us selling the property.
Mm, interesting. So let's just say I have some duplexes, and let's just say I want to fractionalize a duplex. Okay.
Oh, that's the best.
Okay.
That's exactly what you should do. That's the best avenue and the best road. You
Yeah.
have a duplex. It's rented out. You have a mortgage on it. Let's say it's $500,000 at the each one is worth 250. It's 500,000, but you owe a mortgage of $300,000 when you bought it a few years ago. Well, you're paying that principal, that interest. You're paying if one of the duplexes is not rented, it conveys the other renter now. So there's risks.
Okay.
You want to mitigate those risks as much as possible. You want to get rid of that mortgage is the first thing. You want to free up your credit, your FICO. You want to free up all your all your personal guarantees in that property, right? You come to us, you say we have this so what we do is we send out an appraiser. We check your duplex. Okay, hey, it is worth 500,000. He was correct, or no, it's worth 450. He was wrong, or it's worth more, and he didn't even know. We give you accurate numbers, right? We do an inspection. We'll make sure, listen, this guy hasn't been taking care of his duplex. Look at the bathrooms, look at the this, look at the that. Like there's some money to be put in here. Or this guy's amazing. Look at his duplex. It's right. It's nice. It's beautiful. I want to live there. I want to be a renter in his duplex, right? So we
Mhm.
do all the due diligence beforehand. If everything works out, our numbers make sense, we fractionalize it for you for a small fee. We fractionalize it for you. Okay. And
Mhm.
then we get rid of those $300,000 immediately, right? After those $300,000 are rid of because fractionalized people bought 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, $100, whatever they want. Now you have $200,000 of equity. You're still the owner as long as you maintain 10%. So you got to maintain 50,000 at all times that you can't sell. And when you want to sell, you want to get rid of the duplex altogether, you can sell that $50,000 in one block
Mhm.
into one of our investors, and that will cause a closing and a tax event, but it'll be for $50,000, not
Wow.
for the 500.
Yeah.
So we're helping you there as well, right? And then, but you have tappable equity. You have $200,000 worth of shares. So you can say, hey, you know what? I need a new car. Instead of going to a bank and saying, hey, give me, $40,000. I want to buy a new Camaro, right? And right now the car loans are like 6, 7, 8%. They're crazy. You sell 40 shares of your duplex. People buy them. Now you got 40,000. You go into the car dealership cash, and you get that car cheaper than they would have given it to you because you win in cash. So it puts you in a stronger position. If you want to buy your shares back, start buying your shares back. With the 160,000 you have left, you're getting dividends from that every month. You start buying a share, 2 or 3 a month from people that want to sell their shares. Because you'll have the first right of refusal. Anybody wants to sell it versus the property owner. Oh, he doesn't want it? Okay, then the people in the property. Oh, they don't want it? Okay, then the marketplace. Oh, they don't want it? Then the public. At the very end, we'll probably buy it as a corp because we see the property, we're maintaining it, we're taking care of it, we know what it's making in money. We'll just buy your share. We'll give you fair market value for that share. So it's a win-win-win-win-win all around, and that's what's going to happen with our company. Our company is going to blow up because a lot of people are going to see the birth method. They're going to realize it. They're going to understand it. They're going to do it, and they're going to be like, "This is the next." Remember, I told you about MySpace in the beginning. This is
Yeah.
now Facebook. We're now the Facebook of real estate.
Yeah. Interesting. So how often will you guys do a evaluation of the, portfolio? Let's just say I have 10 of these, right?
Yeah.
How
So
often will I
yeah,
know and my
what the
investors
share is
know?
worth.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and then we get asked that. I love your questions because those questions we get asked by our people that are coming on the platform all the time.
sure.
So what we started deciding to do is we want to appraise, because appraisals are not cheap. They're
Right.
expensive, right? And when we do a hard appraisal compared to a soft appraisal, the first one is always going to be a hard appraisal. Then we get soft appraisal. So we want to do it every quarter or every 6 months, depending on the property, the location, the city, and the state, right? At the very minimum, we want to do it at least once a year, right? Once a year. We don't see ourselves
Mm.
doing that. We want to see ourselves doing it at least twice a year, every 6 months. But we also got to navigate with the real estate market, right? And depending on
Sure.
the city, and because there's some cities that are growing leaps, and Austin, Texas, right now is growing like you. Hi to everybody in Texas. You would
Yeah.
never believe how much Austin, Texas is growing right now. So I'm pretty sure when we get properties in Austin, that's going to be a city that we're going to do every 3 months, every quarter. We're going to just reappraise. So it's probably worth 200,000. Now it's worth 215,000. Now it's
Yeah.
225. Now it's 250. Your share's going up like crazy. You're like, oh my God, I bought the share for 1,000. Now it's worth 1,020. Now it's worth 1,030. Now it's worth 1,050. Now it's worth 1,100 in a few
Yeah.
months. So that's incredible.
Yeah. Besides losing, let's just say I have 50 grand into properties on your platform.
Okay.
Other than losing my 50 grand, are there any other risk associated? Because now I'm involved in 50 corporations. What other risk might I have as an investor?
Zero and none. Because what happens is your money goes into an LLC that owns a real estate property, right?
Yep.
So since your money goes into that LLC that owns that real estate property, at the very end of the day, it's an owned asset. So if something were to happen, like a disaster, we sell the property. If the property when we bought it was worth 300,000, something were to happen, something crazy, we don't owe money to the bank. We don't have a mortgage, we don't have anything, and we have to sell that asset for, let's say, 200,000. Okay, we return all that money, the 200,000, spread evenly among the investors. So instead of losing your 50,000, well, you didn't lose the whole 50, you maybe got back 30, so you lost 20,000. But
Got
that's the worst case. I mean, tremendous worst case scenario. That's like
copy
the
that.
absolute. But there is no money you owe. There's no money that you have to come out of pocket again or anything like
Yeah.
that.
So
No.
no calls for capital. No, like, hey, but because I used to own a condo and it was awesome, right? I had a pool, I lived on a golf course. And then someone stopped paying rent. So my HOA fee went up, or, they're like, hey, let's do the driveway or the thing. Everybody throw in a couple, oh, your rate. And it was just like, it was out of my control. And
Right.
that I
And that's
didn't
what we
like that.
do. Right. And that's what we do. When we buy these properties, we really look at these HOAs,
Yeah,
right? There's HOAs that will tell you, hey, you could buy this property, but you can't rent it for 2 years. Why are we going to get involved with that? There's
totally.
no reason for it, right? Or, hey, this HOA is nice, but guess what? There's going to be an assessment coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? So we look at all these things before. And then, of course, in the future, we can't predict what's going to happen 6 months from now or a year from now. We cannot predict, but we take the best mitigated and the best sound risk and advice that we do from all the things that we do and then we look at the HOAs, we look at their history, we look at the board members in some HOAs. How long has this board member been on there? Oh, they've been on there since the 80s. We got a huge problem. You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
that happened to us. A recent property that we were going to purchase, love the numbers, love the property, everything was amazing. Start looking at the HOA, and all 5 out of the 7 board members have been there since the 80s and the 90s, and they
Yeah.
were older people, but they were very, very been there for so long. They didn't want to change. They didn't want things to update. They didn't want, and we are like, you know what? Let's pull out. It's not worth the headache or the hassle. We don't want to do this to our investors. And when they were talking, we looked at their cash reserves and we said, wow, they have very little cash reserves. If something major happens down here, there's going to be an assessment.
Yeah.
We asked them for the 40-year certification. Where's your 40-year certification? Oh, we're doing it next year. How much money have you put aside for that? Oh, we put 200,000. What? There's going to be an assessment. We
Yep.
pulled out. We pulled out. That's why you want a professional to do this. That's why you
Totally.
want a company, a corporation that has the experience, that has done this, that has, you want that. You want like the Grant Cardone to be your partner,
Yeah.
right? And kudos if I just compare myself to Grant Cardone. But you get what I'm saying. You want somebody to be your partner that says, "Hey, Julio, you've got this. You know this. You're the professional. Here's my money." You
Yep.
wouldn't trust your brother, Bob the plumber, with money, and he's never bought a property. "Hey, Josh, you're my brother. Give me 50 grand. I'm gonna go buy a property." You'd be like, "Whoa, buddy.
Yeah.
You told me give me 50 grand for your plumbing business. I would definitely help you, but not for that."
Yeah. Totally. So Julio, where can people go? So there's people listening in the audience. They want to learn more about the business, how to get involved in such like that. I know you guys are doing some exciting things. You've got some great opportunities moving forward for some growth opportunities for the organization. Where can people go to connect with you, find out more, and maybe do a deal?
Awesome. I'm going to give everybody here my personal email. So
Yep.
that's going to be incredible. That's a one-time thing. I do it for Josh and for everybody out there.
Yeah.
It's going to be JCease, which is my middle name, CEASE, at Realty Brix, REALTY, Brix, BRIX.com. So JCease at realtybrix.com. You can also go to our website and sign up, www.realtybrix.com. And you could also send us information on, there's info@realtybrix.com. You can send us your questions. Also, if you want to have your numbers ran, if you have a deal, if you have a property, if you have a rental, go to our website. There's a part that says fractionalized property. It's going to ask you a lot of questions. 2-bedroom, how many bathrooms? Where's the property located? What's the HOA fees? What are the taxes? What are the insurance? Is there a renter? How much is he paying? Does they have pets? We want to know that. People are like, why do you want to know if they have pets? Because of pet damage. You have a little dog, a little cat. We love you, but they destroy baseboards.
Totally.
You got to treat it as a business, and that's what we do.
A few other questions popped in. Does this work for owner occupied? So we have a big ass
No,
house. Okay.
it does not. It does
Rental
not work
property
for
only.
owner occupied because of a homestead exemption. That's
Cool.
number one. And number two is if it's owner occupied, but it can be rented,
Hmm.
it can work if the owner decides to leave and rent the property.
Copy that. Okay. And then final question. What question should I have asked you that I screwed up and did not ask you during this interview?
I think you asked me a lot of questions. We talked about the industry, talked about my. No, I think we did really well. Oh, we could talk about the capital raise, right? Right now we're in a capital raise, right? We're raising $3 million for our seed round, our first initial round. The shares are $1.50 a share, right? And then when we close the round, it's going to be $2 a share. And then after we send all the paperwork to the SEC and all that, we're predicting anywhere from like 225 to 250 a share. After that, in about 6 to 9 months, we're going to go into a CF round, which is a crowdfunding round. We're going to try to raise 5 million. We're looking at the shares at that point at anywhere from $4 to $6, averaging around 5. And then after that, we're going to go into a Series A within 12 to 18 months after that. And then we're looking at the shares anywhere from like $9 to $12 a share. So within the next 2 years, basically, we're looking at a 6x, 7x, all depending on how everything goes. Our company is increasing drastically, incredibly. We're growing like crazy. We are looking for shareholders into the main holding corporation. So that would be incredible. Josh, I want to, instead of invest in properties, I mean, invest in the holding corporation, right? So you could invest into buy a car and become an Uber driver, and that's great, and make your money that way, and that's wonderful, and we love you. Or you can invest into Uber, the company, while it's growing. Wow.
Sure. Sure. And at this point, this is for accredited investors only, right?
Correct.
Accredited angel investor, family offices, those kind of groups.
Right, VCs, foreign investors. We
Yep.
have a 506. We also have our Reg D, and we have our Reg S. And our Reg S allows for foreign investors.
Oh, cool.
You can't believe how many people we talk to in Colombia that want to move their money out, in Chile that want to move their money out, in Spain right now. We have a few investors we have meetings with in Spain that want to move their money out of these countries. They want to move it into United States, and they want to secure it by real estate. So we have a Reg S, and that's incredible for foreign investors as well.
And then in the future, you're going to go CF round, which will allow for a non-accredited investor. Hey, Bob,
Right.
Bob the builder, Josh the whatever.
You can invest into the company itself.
Yeah.
So it's going to be incredible, right? You can invest into the company himself and say, hey, you know what? Instead of putting $1,000 into, I want to invest $1,000 into Uber, the company. So that's going to be a CF round that we're going to go into when we close our seed round. And
Okay.
then after that, we're going to go into a Series A, and then we're going to grow and grow, and then we'll decide if we're going to stay private or if we're going to go, public, and we'll do an IPO. So I see the future. I see this is the future of real estate. I see the future of real estate investing. I've done many topics about it. I've spoken in many stages about it. People are starting to catch on. They're starting to realize, like, getting involved in real estate is very difficult. So let's let the professionals do it. And let's get involved with them and certified. We're certified. We're under the SEC. We're licensed. We get audited. There's certain things that you should look for in these companies. And you should see their growth strategies. You should see their holding patterns. Ours is only 90 days. No company's doing it except for ours. Every other company that I know is doing a minimum of 2 to 7 years because their mortgage, their leverage. We're not. So, you want to see the management team. You want to see a lot of things when you're about to invest. Please send me an email, jcs@realtybrix.com, and I will gladly answer your questions. You could go into our website. I mean, there's so many ways to get a hold of Josh. Josh, you get a hold of me. We'll
Sounds
talk.
good.
I have time. I'll listen.
Sounds good. Fellow deal makers, as always, take a look at what our guests are sharing on the Deal Scout. Like this, the mission and purpose of the Deal Scout. So look for cool deals, educate the community, educate myself, and then find ways for people to do deals. If it makes sense for you, connect with them directly. All of their contact information will be in the show notes. Say, hey, heard you on the show, and I want to figure out how to do a deal together. If you have a deal that you would like to talk about here on the show, we talk about, from lemonade stands to SPACs and real estate and everything in between. If you have a deal or you support the deal ecosystem and you'd like to talk about it here on the show, head over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, and maybe get you on the show next. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. We'll talk to you all on the next episode. See you guys.
Bye-bye, guys.